Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Pakistan, after the worst economic turmoil, is steadily on the path of recovery. Every sector of the economy is showing promising results, whether it's Pakistan Stock Exchange, with its 100 index crossed 56,000 mark. Along with that, the tax collection is unprecedented and it has not only achieved its target but it surpassed those targets. Along with that, the circular debt is bit controlled and curtailed. Along with that, foreign exchange reserves are on rise, while Pakistan, when entered into International Monetary Fund agreement, that is the standby agreement of $3 billion, Pakistan has achieved lots of its targets. And now 8-member IMF delegation is in Pakistan having negotiations on, and these negotiations are for the second tranche, second phase, and that is of $710 million. And most of the analysts, even the critics and the government officials, they are all hopeful that Pakistan will get its second tranche, as Pakistan's benchmarks for the first phase were overwhelming. And now these negotiations are very important between Government of Pakistan and International Monetary Fund. Ultimately, when the staff level agreement would be done, it would straight away go for the board's approval. The IMF board will oversee and then give its approval, and Pakistan will get its second tranche. Several questions arises, and one of it is important, that what would be the ultimate outcome of these negotiations. Whether Pakistan will get its relief, which is inevitable for Pakistan's economy, and second is that how more reforms would be needed to its economy. And the third one, which is again a very important question, and that is related to that what would be the ultimate impact on Pakistan's economy and how it would ultimately impact the social fabric of Pakistan, as no doubt that inflation gone down slightly, but people of Pakistan are still suffering because of lots of food inflation and overall inflation inside the country. Now, talking on these important aspects and to get answers of these questions, we have in our studios Dr. Khalid Waleed. He is the senior economist. Thank you very much for your arrival, sir. Imayu Khan Sahab, he is again a senior analyst and having lots of experience in dealing with all these issues. We have Brigadier retired Hamid Rashid Malik. He is online. Thank you very much for your appearance, sir, and thank you very much for your presence. So first question related to, and that is the simple question, but not so much simple, it's a bit complicated as well, that how do you see Pakistan and International Monetary Fund delegation negotiations in between?
Well, there are three aspects, unique aspects. First is that is there political instability, is there economic instability in Pakistan, and third is that is the benefits are trickling down to the masses. Given these circumstances, I would say Pakistan is making progress in these three realms, which is translated into Pakistan's overall macroeconomic stability as well. So I would say Pakistan and IMF being on the same page, heading towards the right direction. That is the completion of this agreement, and that will boost the confidence in the market, stability in the economic market, and when there is stability and confidence in the market, investors start to get more involved in the market, and they start to pile up their investments, so that it could get more economic growth coming into the realm of Pakistan's economy. And the second stage would be that if these benefit of these measures and these negotiation between Pakistan, IMF and Pakistan successfully achieving these targets would trickle down to the masses in terms of reducing inflation, in terms of reducing interest rate. That would be the thing that we need to take care of. I think at this particular point, Pakistan is in the right direction. Economic indicators in terms of I would say market stability, confidence, they are improving. We are heading in the right direction.
Your point well taken, Dr. Sahab. Imayu Khan Sahab, there are several analyses coming into the media, the private media and overall internationally, that Pakistan's economy, as Dr. Sahab has said, that some of the indicators are very positive. So Pakistan has also achieved the first phase, whatever the targets was, and to the large extent. So How do you see the second tranche for Pakistan? Do you think that the IMF board would be comfortable enough to approve the second tranche and Pakistan will get what is direly needed for its economy?
Thank you, Faisal Saab. I guess we are in a very interesting times. Not only politically speaking, but there are economic development happening all around the world. Pakistan is in the center. There were certain issues within Pakistan for last few years. Our economy was not doing well, but since this government has taken up, and then the previous government at the end of their tenure, they did this agreement, the new agreement, the standby agreement for $3 billion. So the first few months, I guess, as you have also mentioned rightly in your introduction and Dr. Khalid mentioned, most of the indicators or the demands from the IMF were met. Our revenue collection has gone up. Our foreign remittance has come closer to what we were expecting. And then one of the biggest thing is there is now a political stability. Which
definitely, that is direly needed to have stability.
This was absolutely necessary, and that was the uncertainty which was basically causing some problems for Pakistan. But now, after having a policy, the review within the IMF for last 1 month, now the policy discussion has started today. And in that, I guess there are like 4 or 5 things which needs to be discussed on a bigger level, and then there are certain others. There are around 40 plus different ministries where we have these national bodies which we need to privatize. That has been a discussion for last many years with the government, and government is going ahead step by step, and a lot of impediments have been removed. Then how to improve our revenue. That's something, although the collection for this year target has been achieved, but we need to improve it, because this is basically something which has held us at the level. We need to rise above that level. How to decrease the expenditure. There are some non-development expenditure, there are expenditure which we could reduce, and that's basically the discussion which is happening now at the policy level. Then how to bring the dollar inflow. For that, government has also created a new institution, last government when they were there, Special Investment Facilitation Council. And I think the military leadership and the civilian leadership joined hand together, and with their effort, now we have at least a promise of $75 billion. Although a lot of people says that these are the words, but our friendly countries, including Saudi Arabia, including Qatar, including UAE, including China, including Turkey, they have promised to invest in certain sector, in mining, in IT, in agriculture. So I guess Dr. Khalid mentioned, now we are at the right trajectory. But this is just the first step. It's not like a long-term solution. No IMF program is ever going to revive our economy. But since we were in a very dire situation, I think our trajectory is on the right direction now.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And Brigadier Retired Hamid Sab, how it is important, and what about the completion of the IMF first review? Because that is basically very important for Pakistan to achieve the next benchmark as well. So do you think that Pakistan is going in a right direction?
Taking lead from my 2 companions, those who have very properly and comprehensively highlighted the successes Pakistan economy has achieved in the past 3 or 4 months. Here we need to reckon that these steps were not required in these 3-4 months, but it should have been taken earlier also. But later or sooner, the Pakistan government, and especially the caretaker government, has taken a lead that they have taken certain concrete steps. And what we see now, the trade deficit has come down in September 23 from 2.2 billion US dollars to 1.5. That means our exports have increased and our imports have decreased. And at the same time, when we analyze the foreign direct investment, it has gone from 46 million US dollars to 73 million US dollars. And all these things will be also briefed to the IMF delegation. And what we have seen, that their main concern would be the gap between the earning and spending, which is always there. But now with the present government and the caretaker finance ministers address that they will be taking certain concrete measures for austerity in the government spending, and also will take certain institutional reforms for the FPR and also for the other institutions, so that the government spending is brought to the minimum, and also the tax to GDP ratio is also increased. What we see now presently, our tax to GDP ratio is only 10%, as well as the World Bank report, it should be minimum 15%. And if we analyze the developed countries, it is amount to 30% or more. And for other developing countries, it is about 20 to 25%. So these will be areas where IMF would be having policy discussion with Pakistani government that how the government earning can be increased, and at the same time they would be also closely watching the external financing which has been promised, and also Humayun have highlighted that it goes to the tune of 75 billion US dollars. So the prospects are very high, and government will have to ensure that these policies are continued for at least 5 to 6 months so that all the promises and demands which have been made by the IMF and Pakistan as promised are fulfilled successfully.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. But you have rightly mentioned about Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, who is the caretaker finance minister, and leading the Pakistan delegation right now, as she has ample experience internationally, regionally, and nationally. So she is very articulate in her particularly whatever is negotiated, and negotiations are still on. But I think so. How do you see, Brigadier Sahib? Some of the credit goes to the last government as well, because that was the new agreement done with the IMF, and it was very hectic negotiations at that time, and some of the phase of the first tranche was also during that 16 months government. So do you think that last government has taken a lead and have set some path, so the consistency of policy continued in the caretaker government, which the caretaker government is also very much appreciated on that note?
Certainly, we have to give credit to the previous government also, because they had a very tough time negotiating for this standby agreement, because we have seen the previous government was not going to fulfill all the targets which were and promises which were made to IMF. So they had a very tough time. But that tough time basically also gave them a thought that they have to take pragmatic decisions. What were actually required may not be very popular, like they had increased the tariffs for electricity and gas and also for oil, which affected badly the masses. But because of those certain measures, they were able to generate certain resources, and they were also able to persuade our friends like China, Saudi Arabia, UAE, which came to favor Pakistan and provide Pakistan generously with the foreign reserves, which provided Pakistan any rumors were there about default. But Pakistan economy is very rigid, very resolute, and especially I would like to salute our masses who have always stood with the government in such challenging times. And now that difficult time is almost over, and with the passage of time, when the standby agreement and the foreign reserves from our friendly countries start pouring in, and with the establishment of
Definitely, the people of Pakistan sacrifice a lot because of the high inflation. And Dr. Khalid Sahib, though Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves got considerably well, and they are rising with the passage of time, but still IMF is stick to the external finance cap. So how do you see that external financing, whether it's going to be met with some of more friendly countries' investments, or to have something to be in State Bank of Pakistan, or to increase Pakistan's exports, or to curtail some of the government expenditures? How do you see it?
Well, I think when IMF agreement was signed, one of the major contributor to that signing agreement was that Pakistan was given hope from the friendly countries that they would be financing Pakistan's external needs. So that promise was there, and on the basis of that promise, IMF program was agreed and signed. So full credit to the government that it rehabilitated that friendly ties with the nations, and now we are in a better position that we can manage our external financing. Second is that we are looking towards FDIs, foreign dollar inflows, based on the stability in the market. We are targeting that as well. Third is that the caretaker finance minister, he is very vocal and very supportive of climate financing as well, which will brought another revenue stream for Pakistan. Most probably, Ministry of Climate Change will be announcing a framework on COP28 regarding the carbon credits,
Yeah,
which will be
definitely.
another additional revenue stream for Pakistan. So multiple streams for Pakistan would be coming and bringing dollars into the economy that would solve Pakistan's external financing problem.
So, do you think that initially when we were going into the IMF program, so at that time there was some restriction imposed upon the imports, unnecessary imports particularly. Do you think that this should be the solution once again, or that would continue as it is?
I think IMF will be taking it to up a notch this time. They will ask us to eliminate all those restrictions so that we can have this open economy and we have this independent trade going on.
Okay.
That will cause exchange rate to go up. We need to manage that as well. Second would be that IMF is requiring us to curtail or I would say unproductive expenditures in terms of loss-making SOEs. So we need to take care of that as well in terms of privatization, and that was a very efficient solution.
Yeah, definitely.
For the
One
loss-making
point is very
program.
important. You have just mentioned about SOEs. So state-owned enterprises, because an interim or a complete report was also suggested, and Pakistan submitted its suggestion that it would be submitted in December. So do you think that those SOEs who are actually at loss and they are burdened at the national exchequer as well, so how do you see that point? Because IMF is very strict on that as well. Either those must make progress, otherwise some sort of privatization or something like that. So how do you see that?
I think the benefit of privatization would be two-pronged. First, that government would be curtailing their unproductive expenditures in terms of SOEs losses. Second, their efficiency would increase. Obviously, when the private sector jumps into those SOEs, there would be corporate governance and there would be principles of corporate governance being followed. There would be more efficient and there would be profitable entities for Pakistan, generating more revenues, bringing more efficiency to the economy, which will in turn obviously boost the confidence of the investors and the economy will.
Very right.
will
We have
flourish.
a slight example of Pakistan Railway as well, that at least some of the private sector came into, and it was just get into some stabilization factor. So, Maisab, how do you see the key economic reforms suggested by IMF once again into the negotiations?
There are multiple levels of suggestion to government of Pakistan. Dr. Khalid was mentioning, we need to make sure that these 40 or plus state-owned enterprises become competitive with the market. Once we do that, then we have to also do the governance system. Within our system, we have some very large ministries, and there's like huge amounts of human resource there, and then expenditure is there. So there is a demand that we also need to bring them at par with the international standards, and on which institutional reform committee is working. Then there is privatization of these organizations, and I guess a lot of hurdles or impediments have been removed. The other 2 or 3 important things which government of Pakistan has done, and this is basically a continuation of like the previous policy, we are now entering the second phase of China-Pakistan economic corridor as well. And when it comes to this budget deficit or fiscal deficit, we have like 2 big problems. We have fiscal deficit and we have balance of payment. The $20 to $28 billion have already been promised by our friendly countries. Dr. Khalid mentioned China was one of the forefront of the countries. Then in terms of balance of payment, this year, 2024, next year that is coming, we have to pay a lot of money to the previous loans that we have taken, and that takes a lot of our chunk of our revenue. So I guess there is negotiation going on with these friendly countries either to postpone that or for this next year. So in that case, we will also try to bring this balance of payment crisis again. We will delay it, by the way. This is not an ultimate solution, but this is basically caretaker's responsibility to hand over a system which is in a flow, so that the next government they don't have to do this damage control the entire few years that they are in. So they have to do the proper reforms, and in that proper reforms, I guess these 4 policy decisions that they have to take in institutional reform. Circular debt is something which has become massive pain for our economy, not only in the
overall in the energy sector,
but also in the gas sector.
Electricity, but also the gas sector.
So I guess now we have 8,000 plus megawatt installed through China-Pakistan economic corridor. We have enough electricity for next couple of years for that matter. But our transmission lines are very old. So there is a massive reform which needs to be undertaken. Then the discos which have been providing electricity to the people, their revenue is very less. So this has been done in the previous government, and this government has also made a petroleum policy where the petroleum theft, electricity theft was something which was very massive. Around 25,000 people have been arrested. There's a massive campaign going on which has yielded result. So I guess this has to continue in the next government. Then privatization, something which has happened in almost all of the world. Prime Minister was in UNGA and then also in Belt and Road Forum with his interviews with certain international companies. He said government has no business doing business within the country. Our job is reform. Our job is basically legislation,
the policy making,
and the policy making.
Definitely.
So I guess if government is relaxed from those business-oriented entity and through which we can like let go of these big SOE, this could become a very competitive model for Pakistan. It has not been done in the last 15-20 years, but if we could undertake this initiative now, probably next government would be in a very good position.
Definitely. And Dr. Khalid, as Humayun said, that particularly the circular debt that is right now its presence is in electricity, that is there in the gas sector. Along with that, when we are talking about the rationalizing of expenditures, cutting down the subsidies, and along with that some of the targeted project financing, because that is also a very important factor, and PSDP is again in the radar. So how do you see, might be some of the PSDP projects would be phased out and that would be cut down to its size. So how do you see that is going to be viable?
Yep, that is going to be a viable option. But I would say that there are two perspectives. One is that cutting the PSDP. Second is to rationalize those subsidies that are blanket and that are being given to everybody. Targeted subsidies, targeted PSDP, I think that would be the course of action for Pakistan for the longer term and for the structural reforms. But at the same time, when there is exponential increase in the electricity tariff, aiming to resolve that circular debt issue, we need to do structural reforms in the electricity and power sector as well as for the gas sector. Saying that we need to also take care of those who are vulnerable, who are, I would say, baseline consumers. We need to provide them with the targeted subsidies as well. In the previous discussion negotiation with the IMF was not willing to do that kind of providing to do that kind of subsidy or targeted subsidy in wake of high exponential increase, the price hike in the electricity in the months of June, July, August. I think Pakistan would be in a better position because we have achieved lots and lots of macroeconomic targets. We would be in a better position to negotiate and ease the terms for the vulnerable community, vulnerable consumers, so that we can provide them with some sort of targeted
very important point. Brigadier Retired Hamid Sahab, IMF is also very much concerned about the tax collection, tax net, tax evasion as well, and to bring more filers into the tax net. So how do you see that progress? And recently FBR has also surpassed its tax collection targets, and more taxpayers are going to be included. Along with that, Prime Minister has suggested very robust tax collection scheme, like 5 points of it is very important. How do you see that overhaul of the tax system and bringing 1.5 million taxpayers into the tax net?
Faisal, I think this is the subject which will be again discussed thoroughly during the policy level discussion between IMF and Pakistani government. And here I think our caretaker finance minister has very elaborately highlighted that there is no concern about new mini budget which will be announced after the talks, which is, I think, a very good news for the masses of Pakistan. And at the same time, it is being said that the target of 94 billion Pak rupees tax collection will be successfully achieved by the end of the year. And as far as the tax evasion is concerned, there are structural reforms being undertaken in FPR also, and also the government is trying that our economy is documented. The presently problem with Pakistan economy that it is majorly undocumented and informal economy or black economy, because of which certain money is siphoned away from the banking transactions, either in the real estate or in other market. The cash transactions are being done. And while the government is trying hard that the digitalization of the economy takes place, and I think with these measures taken by the government, and you also hinted upon that five key areas are the policies which has been spelled out by the Prime Minister, which was first that there should be a tax policy which should be as per the aspiration, as per the ground realities of Pakistan economy and how this tax policy is going to ease out the taxpayers, and at the same time it also have some punitive measures for the non-filers. Presently, what we see that it is only tax slab which is raised for the non-filers, and there are no incentives for the tax filers. And I think with this policy or vision in vogue, the new tax policy will become a boon and blessing for the tax filers. And the other is that the provincial government tax collection is very less, because of which most burden comes over to the federal government, and they have to borrow from the international lenders. And I think if the provincial
Definitely, Brigadier Sahib, your point well taken. Dr. Khalid Sahib, how much it is important to have digitization or digitalization of the tax regime along with the simplified tax regime, and bringing those sectors into the tax net which are untaxed from the last many years, like real estate, like agriculture, like even you have retailers and all others. So how do you see that?
Well, building on the arguments by Brigadier Saab, Pakistan's economy is informal. Pakistan needs to document the economy if we want to have this, I would say, universal sort of tax filing regime. So first step is to digitize the economy, bring informal economy into the formal fold, and then introduced reforms in our taxation system in terms of making it simpler to file. Right now we obviously need a lawyer to file our tax returns. What we can do is, or what government can do is, we need to have structural reforms so that one individual can file their own taxes. That would create some sort of easement for the tax filing. Second is that we need to make sure that the filer see that the non-filers are being punished, are being curbed. So that they see that incentive and see that there is a difference between filers and non-filers. So more and more non-filers could get into the non-filers database. Second is that we need to reduce the tax rate and enhance the tax base,
yes,
so that more and more tax filers are in the net, and other sectors, those are I would say taxes are not imposed or they are undertaxed, they should be brought equally to those sectors who are paying taxes. One very good example given by you is that retailer sector. Government is thinking, or IMF is demanding, that there should be a fixed tax for the retailers. I think this should be carefully considered. Because we see that retailer sector is
so that they feel at least comfortable in their businesses and all that, and they know what they have to pay and what they are ultimately getting out of that. That is very important. Emai Sahib, how do you see the progress of Pakistan Stock Exchange? After years and years of turmoil, we have seen some of the investors' confidence increasing, market is actually working, and lots of portfolio investments as well into the stock exchange. So how do you see that progress? Because it has just crossed 56,000 mark at the 100 index.
I think it's just corroborate with what we were just saying, all of us on the panel, that there's a relative political stability which has come in. So the confidence of investors have again come back. Last few months there was uncertainty in terms of the election date, which has now been announced, which basically gives a very clear indication that there's going to be a proper legislative assemblies which will come into force, and they will take policy decisions. All these measures which caretaker government is taking, and this was also taken into consideration when this setup was being organized, the caretaker setup. They were given some special powers just in case this political instability continues, so they will be in a position to run the affairs. But now everything has been settled, political stability has come back, and that we see in terms of stock exchange, that we also see in terms of our policy vis-a-vis our friendly countries, our neighboring countries, our new decision in terms of getting into agreements with our neighboring countries, luring them for investments. So I guess stock exchange not necessarily all the time represents the proper economic situation, but it basically senses the mood or the environment which is prevailing. So this particular last 2 weeks or last 1 month shows us the confidence that investors are now a little more confident in not only the local one but also the international investor. So I see as a positive move. And I would just like to comment in the previous question that you asked. Digitalization of our economy is very important, and we see that the payment system, and we see that in our neighboring countries, particularly in China and also in India as well, that almost all the payments are now through mobile phone or banking apps. So once you do that, you automatically digitalize the economy, and your identification or your ID card becomes your national taxpayer number. If I could spend this much money, and by the way, this is somehow the government is also taking, if you pay through a bank card today in Islamabad or in Punjab, your GST is 5% as compared to 17% if you pay cash. So that's an incentive. So I guess if we bring more incentive in all other payments, and also the service sector, which has been for a very long time not part of the taxpayer system, doctors, the lawyers, and many other services that we are getting. So if we also bring them in the tax net, that will generate a lot of more revenue, and our economy will become more digital and listed in this stock exchange that we were talking about.
Definitely, definitely. And Brigadier Sahab, when we are talking about Pakistan's economy, it is important to mention here that lots of measures taken by the government as well regarding anti-smuggling. We have seen lots of measures related to anti-hoarding and also anti-money laundering. So how do you see that impact upon the economy?
In a broader spectrum, all these collaborative actions taken by the government along with the army, and I think we must appreciate Chief of Army Staff, General Sayyid Asim Munir, his wholehearted support to the government against the smuggling as well as the dollars hoarding was concerned. And because of the illegal trade of the dollar and its smuggling to Afghanistan, our exchange rate was going higher. And what we have seen as the actions were taken by the law enforcement agencies, by the customs and by the FBR, the exchange rate came down drastically, and it also helped the government to give some relief to the masses also, that the petrol prices were reduced. And what we see that when all these actions contribute to the government and government comes in a comfortable position, the tariffs of electricity and gas will also come down, and as well as the inflation will come down. As we presently see that our interest rate is very high, and now it is said that it is going to reduce, which will also induce a positive spirit among the investors, among the industrialists, as there will be ease of business in Pakistan. These are few steps which have collaborative to the economy's betterment also. And one of the aspect of the what we see in the Pakistan Stock Exchange, when the hot money came out of the dollar trade, because there were many people who were just investing in dollars so that they can get a good profit within a days. Now they have also non-traditionally moved to the Pakistan Stock Exchange, which is, I think, a documented and better way of investment in Pakistan.
Definitely, you are very right on that. Dr. Khalid, how do you see, because that is very important point, we don't want to ignore it, that how much it is important to have political stability in the country to steer Pakistan's economy?
Well, definitely political stability resonates, and political stability instills into the economic stability. If there is confidence in the market and investment climate in the country is booming, more and more investment would be coming into the economy, not only the foreign investors, even the local investors as well. Second is that political instability also linked with the dollar inflows. When there is more dollars in the economy, there is more, I would say, fiscal space available, monetary space available, so that the government can take care of interest rate as well. When the interest rates come down, there is more room for the investments, and the investor community, they see it as a good sign. Again, the political stability is also linked with your markets as well, stock market. They see it as a positive sign. When there is positive signs in the economy, stock market improves, and we can not only show it to our local investors, we can show it to our international investors.
Definitely,
as
you
well.
are very right. And Imam, when we are talking about Pakistan's political arena, now the election mode is started, and election date is already announced. That is very important in that sense as well. So how do you see the stability on the side of security as well as the political stability to have real-time economic prosperity in the country?
Well, I guess they're all intertwined, the political stability and the security of the country, because a politically elected government would be able to take massive decision when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to the security details which is happening in the country. Legislation could be done in terms of, in the last few years when there was terrorism on the rise, there were parliament which has taken massive decision in terms of national election plan, in terms of many other initiative, and army was backing the political decision making, and that's basically shows to the world that we are on one page, and that's how this stability becomes very important, because then the investors are willing to come. And that's exactly the reason why in the last government, when we make this special SIFC, and the reason was military was backing the civilian government in terms of economic revival and in terms of security to the investors, and also not only the physical security but the security in terms of financial institutions as well. So that has yielded the result. We've been given promises of $75 billion. It's not a small feat. Although
definitely,
it will take some time in terms of bringing them here, and in terms of ease of doing business, and in terms of one window operation, and many other nitty-gritties needs to be chalked out. But this shows that if you provide economic stability and sided with political stability and security within the country, investors are willing to come. And Pakistan is a heaven for investors, because
obviously
the environment is there, infrastructure is laid down. Now we're talking about South Asia, Central Asia connectivity.
And most important is the political will is there.
Absolutely.
Among all the political parties, along with the caretaker government, they are taking care of each and everything. Along with that, as you have rightly mentioned, under the able leadership of Chief of Army Staff, General Sayyid Asim Munir, that SIFC, because that is the initiative by the government and supported by the military, as you have rightly mentioned about. So thank you very much, Imayu, for your presence. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid, for your presence. And we are also thankful to Brigadier Retired Hamid Rashid Malik Saab as well. Thank you very much for your candid views on Pakistan's economy. Viewers, as you all know, that no doubt that International Monetary Fund delegation is here, IMF program is not much easy for any country to go on with that one, but that is actually, if we just go through the contours of the IMF program, that is actually in reality that is for the correction of Pakistan's economy, and Pakistan's economy is correcting itself. Pakistan's economy is geared up, and it is picking the pace, but it is slightly slow but very encouraging, very positive body language of the Pakistani leadership as well. And Pakistan's overall scenario is I think so that it is going for prosperity of the country, and we have to gear up as a nation. We have to put our part for the building up this economy, because this is hinging upon that for our next generation to come, and this is a very important point. And along with that, when we are talking about economy or the political stability and all that, we are existing right now in a country which is very important geographically, and at the regional and international level, it is again very important that we don't have to forget the events which are going on. And one of the events that is unfortunately very important, and that is the Middle East situation, the Palestinian situation, and particularly the situation of Gaza, where the Israeli occupation forces are actually from the last more than 1 month, they are bombarding civilians, they are targeting hospitals, they are targeting ambulances, they are targeting UN teams along with relief workers and those who are fleeing the whole destroyed area. Unfortunately, just we have heard the news, we have seen the visuals. Those were unfortunate that Israeli occupation defense forces stormed into the Al-Shifa hospital, and they have not spared any patient over there. They were getting into the different wards and all that, and they are storming in, they are attacking the people, they are not sparing doctors and the medical staff over there as well. So it is very unfortunate, and international community is still mum. Some of the international countries, the Western countries, they are supporting Israel, but this is the time that we have to be, as humanity, we have to think about that if humans don't have the chance to exist, and the Gaza people are also the humans, we all have to pray for them, we all have to act upon the Israeli aggression as well. So this is all for today's Foresight. It is time to sign off here. Allah Hafiz.